What if the strength you've been chasing isn't found in louder words or tougher armor, but in the stillness you keep avoiding? We often seek control in a chaotic world. Yet the real transformation begins when we let go and listen to the quiet, to ourselves. Imagine becoming unshakable not because you're hardened, but because you're deeply rooted. This is the journey inward, the path of emotional strength shaped by intention, not intensity. Emotional strength isn't about bottling up pain or pretending to be unfazed by life. It's about remaining open in the face of adversity. It's choosing presence over reaction, clarity over chaos, and groundedness over control. These habits are not formulas for perfection, but invitations to live more fully from within. The emotionally strong do not avoid hard things, they simply carry them differently. They breathe through storms. They speak with intention. They know when to act and when to wait. And at the core of everything, they have trained themselves to listen, not just to the world around them, but to the quiet rhythm of their own inner truth. Habit 1. Embrace stillness over stimulation. In a world of endless noise and urgency, choosing stillness is a radical act. Emotional strength isn't built in the chaos, it's built in the pauses we allow ourselves to take. Start your day not with your phone, but with your breath. Let silence be the space where your thoughts settle, and your soul recalibrates. Stillness gives you perspective. It teaches you how to listen, not to react impulsively, but to respond with clarity. Emotionally strong people do not fear silence. They return to it daily as a sanctuary for renewal. Habit 2. Respond. Don't react. Reaction is instinctual, response is intentional. When something triggers you, criticism, rejection, disappointment, pause. Ask yourself, what is this really about? Often, our reactions are echoes of old wounds, not reflections of present truth. Emotional strength lies in reclaiming that space between stimulus and response. In that space, you decide who you want to be. Do you want to mirror the chaos, or meet it with calm? Responding is not weakness. It's wisdom in motion. Habit 3. Set boundaries with grace. Boundaries are not walls, they are doors with locks, and you hold the key. Saying no does not make you cruel. It makes you clear. Emotionally strong people do not over-explain or apologize for protecting their energy. They know that burnout serves no one. Your worth is not measured by your availability, but by your alignment. When you set boundaries, you honor your limits. And that is an act of self-respect, not selfishness. Habit 4. Make peace with discomfort. Discomfort is not your enemy. It is the doorway to transformation. Every time you lean into a hard conversation, sit with a difficult feeling, or stay with the task even when it's tedious, you build endurance. Emotionally strong people are not numb, they are resilient. They feel deeply but aren't ruled by emotion. They don't avoid hard things. They move through them, slowly, gently, and with compassion for themselves. Habit 5. Practice emotional agility. Emotional strength isn't about suppressing feelings. It's about navigating them with skill. Agility means you can feel sadness without drowning in it, anger without becoming it, and joy without clinging to it. Emotionally strong people don't judge their emotions, they study them. Every emotion is information, a signal. When you pause and ask, what is this feeling here to teach me? You move from reactivity to reflection. This habit requires honesty and patience. It asks you to sit with discomfort long enough for it to become clarity. Habit 6. Align actions with values. There is no deeper peace than the one that comes from knowing your life reflects what you believe. when your choices are aligned with your core values. You don't just feel strong, you become rooted. Emotionally strong people are not distracted by every impulse or trend. They filter decisions through a deep sense of integrity. Does this align with who I am and who I want to be? Clarity replaces chaos when you live by design, not default. Habit 7. Cultivate internal validation. Waiting for approval is emotional captivity. You become a prisoner of praise. But emotional strength comes from knowing your worth is not up for debate. The emotionally strong do not outsource their confidence. They build it from within, brick by brick, through consistency, reflection, and self-respect. When you validate your own voice, you become immune to the noise of others. You don't need applause to believe in your direction. Habit 8. Reframe failure as feedback. Emotionally strong people do not fear failure, they study it. They understand that mistakes are not the opposite of success, but the path to it. Each setback becomes a seminar, each stumble, a step forward. To reframe failure is to say, this did not work, but I am still worthy. It is to learn, adapt, and rise, without losing yourself to shame. True strength is not the absence of failure, but the ability to remain whole inside it. Habit 9. Nourish yourself daily. Just as the body requires rest and nourishment, so does your emotional self. The strong do not power through endlessly, they pause, reflect, and refill. This nourishment can look like journaling, solitude, movement, beauty, laughter, prayer. It doesn't have to be grand, but it must be intentional. You are not weak for needing care. You are wise for giving it to yourself. When you're full, you stop begging the world to fill you. You lead with overflow, not emptiness. Habit 10. Lead from compassion, not control. In conflict, in leadership, in love, emotional strength shows not in how loudly you speak, but in how deeply you understand. You don't need to dominate to have influence. You don't need to control to guide. Compassion is not softness, it is presence with depth. The emotionally strong know how to hold space for others while remaining anchored in themselves. They do not abandon truth to maintain peace, but neither do they abandon love to prove a point. They lead not by force, but by being rooted and real. To be emotionally strong is not to harden, it is to deepen. You are no longer chasing resilience through exhaustion. You are cultivating it through awareness. These habits aren't quick fixes. They are lifelong practices, anchors in the storm, soft armor for your soul. And with each quiet, courageous choice, you rewrite your story, not as someone who merely endured, but as someone who evolved. Because the calm within you, it changes everything. Let's pause and reflect on what emotional strength truly looks like in the flow of ordinary life. It is the mother who rises early before the sun, not just to prepare breakfast but to take 5 quiet minutes for herself, because she knows her peace is the pulse of her home. It is the student who receives harsh criticism, breathes, and asks, "What can I learn here?" instead of shrinking into shame. It is the leader who chooses to say, "I don't know yet," instead of pretending certainty. Emotional strength is choosing a compassionate response when sarcasm would feel easier. It's pausing to say, "This hurt me," instead of bottling it up or lashing out. It's walking away from what drains you, even if others call it quitting, because you know your spirit needs rest more than approval. These habits we've explored aren't abstract ideals. They are everyday acts of bravery. They are the quiet revolutions that happen when no one is watching. And the more you practice them, the more they stop feeling like effort, and start feeling like truth. The journey to emotional strength is not about becoming someone else. It is about coming home to who you've always been beneath the noise, the pressure, the programming. It is peeling back the layers of performance and revealing presence. To walk this path is to say yes to a deeper life, not necessarily an easier one, but one that is anchored in authenticity. You stop hiding your wounds and start tending to them. You stop fearing discomfort and start moving through it with grace. The calm within is not a destination. It is a way of being, a choice you make, again and again, in the face of conflict, confusion, and change. You don't wait for the world to be quiet before you soften, you become the stillness you've been seeking. So let today be the day you begin. Not with grand declarations, but with a simple breath, a moment of stillness, a whisper to yourself, I am building something stronger than fear. I am building a life led from within. Think of the times when you held back tears just to appear strong, or when you laughed at something that hurt, just to deflect attention. Those were not signs of weakness. They were survival. But survival is not the same as wholeness. Wholeness begins when you give yourself permission to feel without shame. When you allow anger to surface, not to explode, but to explore. When you welcome sadness as a signal that something within you needs care. This is emotional maturity, not hiding emotions, but holding them wisely. Imagine a young athlete who loses a competition after months of training. Her instinct may be to slam the locker shut, to cry in silence. But what if she paused and said, this loss doesn't define me. It teaches me? That moment is her silent edge, the space between the pain and the power. That's where transformation begins. Or picture an older man who has always kept his emotions under lock and key. He was taught that vulnerability is weakness. But in a rare moment, he opens up to his daughter and says, I'm proud of you. I never said it before, but I should have. In that brief sentence, decades of emotional armor begin to dissolve. This is strength, tender, raw, real. Emotional strength doesn't erase pain, it teaches you to walk through it with steady hands. It doesn't mean you never feel overwhelmed, it means you know how to come home to yourself in the chaos. You begin to build internal rituals. Maybe it's journaling at night to make sense of your feelings. Maybe it's a morning walk without your phone. Letting nature untangle your thoughts. These small, intentional acts become sacred. Not for show. Not for others, but because they help you stay anchored when the world spins too fast. What would your life look like if you no longer feared your emotional world, but learned to navigate it with wisdom? What would change if, instead of reacting, you reflected? Instead of hiding, you honored your truth? The answer is not found in pretending to be unbreakable. It is found in becoming unshakably honest. You don't have to master every emotion, you just need to meet it with curiosity instead of condemnation. To become emotionally strong is to learn how to love yourself through every season, when you're thriving and when you're unraveling. It's a skill built in real time. Not in the pages of theory, but in the beating heart of your own daily choices. Think of the artist who keeps creating despite criticism. She is not unbothered, she is simply committed. Her strength lies not in perfection but in persistence. Or the parent who learns to say, I was wrong, and I'm sorry. Modeling repair instead of pride. That's not weakness, that's the deepest kind of strength. To stand in your truth without needing to defend it. To offer forgiveness not because the other person deserves it, but because you deserve peace. To choose growth over comfort. Again and again. This is what it means to live from the inside out. Each of the 10 habits we explored is more than a practice, it is a portal. A door through which you pass to reclaim your power. To restore your clarity. To realign with your purpose. And each time you choose presence over panic. Reflection over reaction. Softness over shame, you grow roots. Real strength is invisible at first. It looks like letting go of what no longer fits. It looks like choosing silence in a world obsessed with noise. It looks like grace extended inward, not just outward. You won't always get it right. Some days, emotions will win. You'll yell. You'll freeze. You'll retreat. But if you return, if you keep returning to that quiet part of yourself that knows who you are, you haven't failed. You've remembered. And in that remembering, you build resilience, not the rigid kind that snaps under pressure, but the flexible kind that bends and breathes and begins again. So here's your invitation: start now. Start small. Let today be the day you ask yourself, not how should I feel, but what do I need? And in honoring that answer, you will rise, not perfectly, but powerfully. Emotional strength is not forged in grand moments, it is born in the quiet, persistent choices that no one sees. It lives in the space between stimulus and response, in the pause where we decide to be better instead of bitter. Some people wait for strength to arrive like a lightning bolt, a burst of energy that will forever change their trajectory. But strength, true strength, arrives as a whisper. It says, try again. Speak gently. Let go. Hold on. Depending on what the moment needs. It responds, not with panic, but with presence. It's in that presence where transformation blooms. When you stay present with your anxiety instead of escaping it, you begin to decode its language. You realize it's not your enemy but your messenger. When you listen to sadness instead of silencing it, you uncover what you've lost and what you still long for. And when you move through joy without clinging to it, you begin to trust that it will return. Emotional strength is fluid, it shifts with each chapter of your life. In one season, it may look like boundary setting. In another, it may be vulnerability. In another still, it may be rest. What matters is that you keep choosing what your soul needs. Even if the world doesn't understand it, you will be misunderstood. You will be judged for choosing your peace over performance. But those who have walked through fire do not seek applause, they seek alignment. And in that alignment, you discover the calm within, the still, unwavering place that cannot be taken from you. It's the part of you that doesn't need to yell to be heard, doesn't need to win to feel worthy, doesn't need to prove to belong. That calm becomes your compass. When life spins too fast, you return to it. When others project their pain onto you, you return to it. When you forget who you are, you return to it. Because it's always been there, beneath the noise, beneath the narratives, beneath the wounds. And now, it's yours to lead from. Let's imagine what it would feel like to truly live from this place of calm strength. You wake up and your first instinct isn't to grab your phone, but to breathe. Not because you're avoiding the world, but because you're choosing how to enter it. You walk into your day with intention, not reaction. When tension arises, you don't immediately defend yourself, you listen, reflect, and then speak with clarity. This isn't perfection. It's presence. You become someone others feel safe around, not because you never get angry, but because your anger is no longer reckless. It's rooted. You learn to own your energy, to walk into a room and not absorb chaos, but anchor peace. You stop outsourcing your worth to what others think. You stop waiting for the world to calm down before you do. Because now you know, peace is not passive. It's a practiced, intentional state of being. Emotional strength is built in these decisions, in the rewiring of habits, in the patience of your pause, in the honesty of your yes and the courage of your no. Even on hard days, you return to the breath, to the truth, to the stillness at your center. This returning is the quiet revolution. It's what changes the legacy you pass on, not just to your children or your community, but to yourself. And that is the greatest gift of all. So if you take anything from this journey, let it be this: you are allowed to feel. You are allowed to rest. You are allowed to take up space without performing. You are allowed to protect your energy. You are allowed to lead from softness. Emotional strength is not about being untouched by life. It's about being undeterred by its storms. It's about remembering, over and over, that the calm within you is not a weakness to overcome. It is the wisdom that will carry you forward. And you? You are ready now. Let's dive even deeper. The gap between reaction and response is where life can be transformed. Most of us are conditioned to react, not out of logic, but from wounds, fears, and automatic survival scripts. Someone criticizes us, we shut down or fight back. A challenge arises, we seek escape or distraction. It's not weakness, it's habit. But habit can be rewired. Rewiring doesn't begin in crisis. It begins in stillness. In choosing, on an ordinary Tuesday afternoon, to pause, to breathe, to ask, is this reaction aligned with who I am becoming? This pause is not passive. It is the birthplace of power. And the deeper you practice this pause, the more you begin to live from intention. You start to notice how your nervous system responds to discomfort. You begin to tend to it like a garden, calming the breath, relaxing the shoulders, loosening the jaw. You create safety in your own body, even when the world feels unsafe. From this place, your emotions no longer control you, they guide you. Anger becomes a signal for where a boundary is needed. Sadness becomes a teacher of what you value. Anxiety becomes a messenger asking for slowing down, for self-check-in, for grounding. Let's take a moment to imagine two versions of you in the same situation. Version A reacts from conditioning. Someone says something offensive, and you snap, storm away, and ruminate for hours. Your body floods with cortisol. Your day derails. You feel powerless. Version B pauses. You feel the same heat rise, but you breathe. You notice the story in your head. You take space. You respond with clarity or choose silence. And the best part? You remain grounded. Same trigger, different story. Emotional strength isn't about denying the trigger, it's about choosing your response to it. Now think about how this affects every relationship you hold. A calm presence invites vulnerability. A responsive energy invites trust. As you grow in emotional strength, your very presence becomes healing, for yourself and others. You stop repeating old patterns and start creating new legacies. You become the first in your family to break the cycle of emotional avoidance. The first to say, let's talk. I forgive you. I need space. I love you. And I'm learning how to show it better. That kind of change ripples across generations, and it all begins inside you. To continue this work, build emotional rituals that anchor you. Create a return to center practice. It could be 5 minutes of deep breathing, a short journaling session, a walk without a destination, a prayer whispered in the dark. What matters is not the form, it's the returning. Return. Again and again. Until returning becomes your default. Until your calm becomes louder than the chaos. Until your presence becomes your power. Until you no longer just survive, you lead, love, and live from the inside out. This is your legacy, not to be unshaken by life, but to be unbreakable in your truth. You are home. And you are whole. There's something sacred about a life lived from emotional truth. Not perfection. Not performance. But truth. To wake up and let yourself be where you are, not where others expect you to be. To name your sadness without apology. To express joy without fear of dimming someone else's. To set boundaries not as a form of punishment, but as an act of preservation. This is the quiet revolution of emotional strength. Let's explore one last time what this truly means in motion. You're in a conversation where someone dismisses your feelings. The old you might shrink, nod along, replay the moment for days. The new you breathes deeply, names what's true. I'm not okay with that. You don't escalate. You don't collapse. You stay. You're facing burnout. The old you would push harder, wear exhaustion like a badge. The new you pauses, rests, reevaluates. You learn that recovery is part of resilience. You're beginning something new. Business, art, relationship, and fear creeps in. The old you might sabotage or procrastinate. The new you recognizes fear as a familiar guest and welcomes it, saying, "You can ride with me, but you don't get to drive." This is emotional mastery, not control, but compassion, not rigidity, but rhythm, not perfection, but presence. And when you live this way, something shifts. You stop seeking validation and begin practicing self-affirmation. You stop reacting from childhood wounds and begin responding from adult wisdom. You stop living by default and begin creating your life by design. You become a safe place, for yourself and others. You lead with softness that commands more than power ever could. You find that your calm is more contagious than your anxiety ever was. That your wholeness speaks louder than your trauma. And in this final truth, you no longer seek to escape who you are. You're finally ready to meet yourself, to hold your own gaze, to offer your own tenderness, to witness your own becoming. Not someday. Not when you're healed. Not when you've arrived. Now. Here. As you are, because emotional strength isn't something you chase. It's who you already are, beneath the noise, beneath the fear, beneath the rush to be more. You were never broken. You were always becoming. So return to the center, return to the breath, return to the calm within you, and lead from there. To complete this journey of emotional strength, we must revisit one final principle: integration. All the habits you've cultivated, all the insights you've gathered, all the truths you've touched, they are not separate from your daily life. They are your daily life. Strength doesn't live in books or theory, it lives in the heat of conversation, in the grip of fear, in the softness of self-forgiveness. To integrate emotional strength is to stop treating it as an achievement and begin embodying it as a way of being. Here's how that might look. You're rushing through a stressful day. You pause, not for a dramatic meditation, but to take one conscious breath. In that breath, you remember, I am not the storm. I am the stillness within it. You feel shame rising after a misstep. The old narrative floods your mind. But now, you choose a new voice. I can learn. I can repair. I am still worthy. You get triggered by someone's words. Instead of shutting down or lashing out, you sit with the feeling. You give it shape, breath, space. You name what you need. You respond with grounded clarity. Integration is not always visible. No one may notice the shift, but you will feel it. In how your nervous system regulates. In how your nights feel quieter. In how your mornings feel less frantic. This is the real gift of the work, not that life becomes easier, but that you become equipped. And now, as we close, let these final affirmations anchor your journey. I no longer fear my emotions, I walk with them. I no longer need to prove, I choose to be. I no longer perform power, I embody peace. I am not behind. I am right on time. I do not chase healing, I live in wholeness. Your strength was never lost. It was simply buried under noise, urgency, and forgetting. But now, you remember. You remember the power of the pause, the wisdom of your breath, the sacredness of your truth. So take this with you. not as homework, but as homecoming. You are not weak for feeling deeply. You are not broken for needing rest. You are not too late to begin, and this life, your life, is waiting, not for a better version of you, but for the one who has finally come home, the one who leads from the calm within. Let's close with a true story. There was once a teacher who began every morning with a simple ritual. Before checking her phone, before opening her laptop, she would sit on her porch with a cup of tea. For 10 minutes. She said nothing, did nothing, just listened to the wind, to the birds, to the quiet hum of her own breath. One day, a student asked her, "Why do you sit in silence? Don't you have a million things to do?" She smiled and replied, "I sit in silence so that everything I do afterward comes from peace, not pressure." That is the essence of emotional strength, living from the inside out. Let these final reflections echo in your day-to-day life. When the world speeds up, you slow down. When emotions swell, you breathe. When decisions feel heavy, you return to your center. When you forget who you are, you listen for the voice within that never left, because it's there, always, even in grief, even in chaos, even in noise, especially in noise. And if someday you find yourself lost again, if the world pulls you too far outside yourself, simply come back. Back to the breath, back to the pause, back to the calm within you, and from there, begin again. Emotional strength is not about becoming invincible, it's about becoming intimately familiar with your inner landscape, its valleys of fear, its peaks of hope, its winding rivers of uncertainty. It's about knowing where your triggers lie and gently tending to them. It's about choosing how you respond, rather than letting the world decide that for you. We often mistake strength for hardness. We believe we must armor up, suppress emotions, and push forward no matter what. But true strength is softer. It bends without breaking. It says, "I will keep going, but I will not abandon myself to do so." That's the revolution in a culture that glorifies burnout. Let's talk about recovery. Not the dramatic kind, but the daily micro-recoveries. The moment you forgive yourself for snapping at someone. The moment you let go of an expectation that drained you. The moment you step outside just to feel the sun on your skin. These are not small. These are acts of return to balance, return to wholeness. And there's one more truth we must name. Emotional strength is relational. It's not built in isolation. It's built in conversation, in community, in witnessing others be brave with their truths. You see someone cry, and it gives you permission to feel. You see someone speak kindly to themselves, and it challenges your inner critic. We shape one another, moment by moment, breath by breath. This is why healing matters, not just for you, but for every person your life will touch. So, give yourself to this work, not just in thought, but in action. Let your mornings begin with compassion. Let your conversations be guided by presence. Let your evenings be a time of reflection, not regret. Above all, let this not be the end of a journey, but the beginning of a new chapter, one where you live from your emotional truth. Every day, unapologetically, because this is what the world needs now, not more noise, not more speed, but more people rooted in peace, moving from purpose, lit from within. You are one of those people, and your calm, it changes everything. Let's go deeper, into the very heart of emotional transformation. There's a specific kind of fear that shows up not in danger, but in possibility. The fear that whispers, "What if I'm not ready?" Or "What if I try and fail?" This fear doesn't come from weakness, it comes from the threshold of growth. When you are about to step into something meaningful, your mind naturally resists. Not because it doubts your worth, but because it is wired to keep you in the known. And the known, even when painful, feels safer than the unknown. To shift this, we must meet fear with a new posture, not of avoidance, but of curiosity. Ask it questions. Sit with it. What are you protecting me from? What past moment are you replaying? What belief are you asking me to examine? This is how fear becomes a teacher, not a tyrant. Now let's talk about emotional agility, the ability to move through different emotional states with awareness and adaptability. Life won't always allow you to stay in peace, but it will always invite you to return to it. Agility means recognizing, I'm angry right now, and that's okay. It means choosing not to make a permanent decision from a temporary emotion. It means letting your emotions flow through you, rather than define you. And when you're faced with judgment or criticism, especially from those closest to you, it can feel like a personal attack. But emotionally strong people don't crumble under criticism. They pause. They ask, is there truth in this feedback? What is mine to own? And what is theirs to process? They don't shrink, but they also don't defend with unnecessary force. They hold their ground while holding space. This is not easy. It's a skill. And all skills can be cultivated. Try this. The next time someone criticizes you, pause before responding. Take one deep breath. Put your hand on your heart. Ask yourself, what part of me feels threatened? What part of me wants to grow? In that moment, you become the calm within the conflict. Let's not forget daily emotional rituals. These are the small but powerful habits that keep you anchored. It might be journaling your thoughts for 5 minutes every morning. It might be whispering affirmations before bed. It might be checking in with yourself midday with one honest question, how am I really? These practices accumulate. They become emotional muscle memory. And finally, here's a truth no one tells you, the stronger you become emotionally, the more gentle you will appear. You will yell less and listen more. You will rush less and feel more. You will stop chasing outcomes and start inhabiting your life more fully. You won't need to prove you're strong. Your presence will prove it for you. You will walk into a room and change its atmosphere, not with charisma, but with calm. Not with dominance, but with dignity. And this, more than anything, is what the world so desperately needs, people who are safe with themselves, so they can be safe for others. Let this be your legacy, not a life of reaction, but a life of reflection. Not a life of proving, but a life of peace. Not a life of control, but a life of presence. You've done more than learn emotional strength, you've become it. Let's now dive into one of the most essential, yet overlooked components of emotional strength, boundaries. Emotional boundaries are not walls. They are not built to shut people out, but to protect the integrity of your inner world. Without boundaries, we bleed energy into relationships, into environments, into expectations that were never ours to carry. And over time, this leads not only to burnout, but to a quiet betrayal of the self. Setting a boundary is an act of self-love. It's saying, I trust myself to know what I need, and I respect myself enough to ask for it. It may sound like, I can't take this call right now, or that comment didn't sit well with me, or simply, no. Many of us were taught that saying no is selfish. But the truth is, every yes that dishonors your inner peace is a form of self-abandonment. You cannot show up fully for others if you are constantly depleted. To build strong emotional boundaries, start by asking, what drains me? What triggers me? Where do I feel resentment? These are not signs of failure, they are signals that a boundary may be missing. Pay attention. And remember, boundaries are not one-time declarations. They are living agreements with yourself. You reinforce them not by explaining, but by acting. By making choices that align with your emotional well-being again and again. This is how you stop managing other people's comfort and start honoring your own clarity. Now let's shift to the past, the wounds you carry, often in silence. Emotional strength is not the absence of pain. It's the willingness to face that pain with compassion. To meet the younger version of yourself who didn't have the tools you have now. And to whisper, "You're safe with me." Healing is not about forgetting. It's about remembering differently. It's about transforming the stories that once made you feel small into stories that remind you how far you've come. This takes time. Some days will feel heavy. Others will feel like flight. And both are sacred. You might cry for no reason. You might feel joy unexpectedly. You might notice a peace where once there was panic. These are not random moments. They are signs that your nervous system is rewiring. That your body is finally believing what your heart has always known: you are worthy of safety, of love, of rest. And as you build this new foundation of emotional safety, something else awakens, a deep, unshakable belief in yourself. This is not arrogance. This is not blind optimism. This is the quiet knowing that no matter what life throws your way, you will meet it with integrity. You will walk through it with presence. You will not abandon yourself again. This self-belief is rooted in experience, not of winning every battle, but of surviving every breakdown. It's what allows you to take risks, to love bravely, to speak with honesty even when your voice shakes. Let this belief shape your future, not a future built on fear, but one shaped by the fullness of who you are becoming. You are not a project to be fixed. You are a soul unfolding. You are not behind. You are exactly where your growth requires you to be. And now, with your feet on this ground, and your heart open wide, you are ready to live, to lead, to love, from the calm within. Let's bring everything full circle. After all the effort, reflection, practice, and growth, you stand at the edge of a new version of yourself. Not because you became someone else, but because you remembered who you truly are. Emotional strength was never about perfection. It was about integration, bringing every fragmented part of you into the light of your compassion. It was about building a relationship with your feelings rather than fleeing from them. About trusting that you could feel deeply without falling apart. About letting go without losing yourself. Think about the people who have left the biggest imprint on your heart. Were they the loudest, the most forceful? Or were they the calm ones, the people who listened deeply, responded gently, and radiated a quiet certainty that made you feel safe? That's who you're becoming. Not just someone who knows how to survive, but someone who knows how to live. To live means to feel, to show up in joy and grief, to risk your heart, to say I'm not okay when you need help, to say I love you even when it terrifies you, to keep choosing peace in a world that profits from your chaos. To protect your softness not by hardening, but by deepening. You are not here to rush through life. You are here to live it richly. Pause often. Breathe deeper. Let go faster. Connect more slowly. Love with full presence. Because in the end, it's not the accolades or the achievements that define you. It's how deeply you lived. How gently you touched others. How well you honored your inner voice even when the outer world was loud. Emotional mastery is not an end point. It is a lifelong dance between being and becoming. There will be days you forget. That's okay. There will be moments you fall back into old patterns. That's human. But now, you carry tools you didn't have before. You carry the memory of your own resilience. You carry the map back to yourself. And most importantly, you carry a choice, a sacred one. The choice to pause when everything pushes you to react. The choice to respond from your center instead of your wounds. The choice to return, again and again, to the calm within. So as you walk forward into this next chapter, may you remember that calm is not the absence of emotion, but the presence of wisdom, and may that wisdom be the compass that leads you home. There is one last truth worth engraving into your soul: stillness is not the absence of storms, it is the clarity found within them. Even on your most overwhelmed days, when everything feels urgent and uncertain, you still hold the ability to come home to yourself. This ability is not external. It's not dependent on anyone's approval or the perfect circumstance. It lives within you, always waiting to be remembered. All it takes is one breath, one moment of pause, one gentle reminder that you are more than your reactions, more than your roles, more than the noise surrounding you. You are the presence beneath the pressure, the steady ground beneath the tremble. You are the eye of the storm, not because you avoid the chaos, but because you've learned how to move through it with grace. And that is your superpower. So go ahead, keep softening where the world demands you harden. Keep choosing depth where the world praises distraction. Keep building your life from the inside out. And no matter what comes, return to that quiet truth you now carry. You've trained for this. You are ready. You are home. This is what it means to be emotionally strong. And if ever you forget, just place your hand over your heart and listen. That rhythm? It's the echo of your courage. It's the reminder that you, calm, clear, and conscious, are still here. If something in this video spoke to your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. We're learning to listen, to heal, and to grow stronger, one day at a time. You're not alone on this journey. I'm walking it with you.